My name is Jose Antonio Rivera, and I have been forgiven. They call me Tony because of my middle name, Antonio. When I started going to school, and they used to call me, the teacher used to call me Jose. I never answered because I didn't know my name was Jose until I started going to school, and they had to call my mom in, and then she explained it to me at home. So then I started responding by Jose, although I didn't like it, but that's what they used. That's what they called me, Tony. Well, my first years of life, I grew up in Puerto Rico, in Caguas, and I spent a lot of time where my grandparents are at in Moca, Puerto Rico, which is mostly country. Well, I came here to Chicago as a freshman of high school. Yeah, well, we lived out here. I was the firstborn. My mom came over here when we were a year old, but then after divorce and stuff like that, we ended up going back. I think I was in second or third grade when we went back to Puerto Rico. So yeah, I spent most of my time in Puerto Rico as a youth. When I lived in Puerto Rico, that was my best life. I loved it over there. We had freedom. We had rivers, beaches. I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, like I said, in the country. Um, Cattle, chickens, horses, you name it. Uh, you know, I look at my life over there now, and I tell my kids we had like a miniature zoo that was outside. We had this dog named Whitey that used to even chase the cars. But that was my best time being out there in Puerto Rico. Growing out there is life is different than over here. Things over here tend to move a little too fast. Well, going to the rivers, my grandmother used to always take us to this river. We used to call it the Tres Tubos because where the bridge was at, it had like three big old water tubes, and to us, the current used to be a little strong. So it's we used to use those tubes. I laugh now because we used to use those tubes like kids use the water slides in the Kalahari. To us, that was the Kalahari. So those are my best times. And going to my favorite restaurant to this day when we go over there, it's called Chanos. It's a chicken place. Been there, it's passed down to the son now, but every time I go over there, I got to get some Chanos. Definitely, and all it is fried chicken and fries, but it's just the way they prepare it, and they put the fries in this small white box, and then they just not spray it, well, they squeeze a bunch of ketchup on the fries and the chicken, and you just sit there and eat it, and but the taste you know, is undescribable. You got to get some Chanos. You go to Puerto Rico, go to Aguadilla, and get you some Chanos. Yeah, I believe we came here mid, like I think they were probably in Christmas break when we came. So I came here like at the mid year. I knew some English or Spanglish, but I knew some English, so I was able to pretty much get around. Well, when we got here, we moved to Washtenaw and Potomac. So the school that I went to was Roberto Clemente. My mom, because I had good grades, I had great grades actually. When we came from Puerto Rico, so my mom had taken a job with the city at the time when we came. So she wanted to put me in Gordon Tech High School at that time, but I refused to because I didn't want to be jumping on no bus. Uh, and everybody that I met where we lived at went to Roberto Clemente. They didn't go to Gordon Tech, and not to sound racial, but I was like, Gordon Tech, we took a ride over there and I see a bunch of white kids. I was like, no, this is not for me. So my mom ended up putting me in Roberto Clemente High School. Well, it was good. But growing up in the neighborhood and, and actually I had family here, cousins and stuff, and guys that I knew, and I just started hanging out with the wrong crowd, but things, I didn't have a hard time. They were showing me the ropes, and a kid coming from Puerto Rico, a little rebellious because I really didn't want to come. So I pretty much got involved with the wrong crowd, and I didn't have no hard time in school besides the classes. Other than that, it was good. I can't complain about it besides the fact that I was getting in a lot of trouble. Well, I got involved in gangs right away. Um, got involved in selling drugs, doing drugs. So that's the type of trouble I started to get into, and then guys would, be like, "Hey, that guy's from the other side" and stuff like that. So end up getting into fights, and I just started getting into a whole lot of trouble. Well, I grew up on what they call the folk side of Humboldt Park. So then people point out, "Hey, that guy's from the other side," from the Land King side. Uh, so of course, then we would end up beating them up, and whatever the case was. Yeah, it sure did. Cause at that time I was 14, and actually one time I went and walked this girl I had met. I had walked her home. She lived by Washington and Wabansia or something like that. And coming back home, uh, I seen this guy. Uh, the guy didn't beat about nothing. Actually, it was a white dude. But to me, I thought, he just had his arms crossed the wrong way. He was waiting on the bus right there on Washington and North Avenue. So I approached him and started going at him and stuff. And it just happens to be that the police was right, and I didn't even see the police. So they just rode up on me, grabbed me from my back, slammed me against the car and stuff like that. But by the grace of God, the guy didn't even press charges, but they still ended up locking me. No, that was just a little trip to the police station. Then my mom came and signed me out. But then things just escalated from there. I just started getting deeper into the gangs. The guys found out what had happened and stuff like that. So uh, it's like I say, guys start noticing stuff. So you end up doing more. So that's where my criminal life pretty much started at. So I started going, and then I want to say I believe it was 1985. They did this big raid in my neighborhood. They called that Operation Pot Rock. It was a big indictment. I think it was like 95 of us, 103, something like that, guys. That we got all locked up for selling to undercover police officers. Actually, it was only three or five juveniles in that indictment. That's where I served time as a juvenile. That was because I was always in and out to a police station or the Audi home on Roosevelt. Be there for a week or two, 3 weeks at a time. Come back out, they enroll you in school. You got to get back in school and stuff like that. But I was always violating my probation and ending up right back. But at that time, it was just in and out, like I said, being there 2, 3 weeks in the Audi home and come right back out. Yeah, even the counselors and the officers that worked the deck, it was like, oh, you back already? Oh, you lasted a little longer this time. So it was just, you get used to the ropes in there and stuff like that. They of course you got to go to school in there also, mandatory is in the Audi home. So the teachers will be like, hey, matter of fact, we still got your old work here, so here. So yeah, so it just became like a game. I used to say like, a little get together with the guys that were already in there that you knew, and you used to just go in there, visit them, and come back out. Um, well, I was a little concerned, little scared, because I didn't know what to expect. It being my first time going to the Audi home, and they take you in this bus, they drive you in through these big doors and stuff like that. They bring you out, the fingerprinted and stuff like that. You're looking at all these officers that are looking at you, the other guys that are with you and stuff like that. Some of them that have been in and out from the Audi home also. So basically, they start asking, "Hey, where you from?" and stuff. And at that time, if you would say you were from Humble Park, everybody thought you're crazy. You from Humble Park? Oh, you crazy? I can't go over there. And so and they'll start the guys before you even get upstairs. There, you already pretty much know what to expect and stuff. But honestly, I was a little worried, a little scared of what is this going to entail. But after being there, first 2 3 days and stuff like that, you're like, man, this ain't nothing. So you just got to abide by the rules. Watch TV when they tell you to watch TV, eat when they tell you to eat, shower when they tell you to shower, lock up when they tell you to lock up. So it just becomes like a routine. All over again. Just start doing the same thing all over again. Actually, after Operation Pot Rock, I think I came home. I think I was there 9 months, I want to say. Um, and I came home right before my 17th birthday, probably within a couple of days, couple of weeks of my 17th birthday. I turned 17. As soon as I turned 17, I caught a gun case. They caught me with a gun. So due to my background and getting caught with a gun, I was on probation for as a for juvenile. What they ended up doing, they ended up squashing what they call squashing my juvenile probation, and I ended up in Cook County jail for the gun. Yeah, now I'm at 26 in California, and it's a whole different ball game. And when I got in there, but due to the fact that I already pretty much knew what the jail process is as a juvenile, is just now you're in a prison with men. Although to me, I was still a kid because I was only 17, and I still had like that shorty, what they call it, like that shorty impulse and stuff like that all over the place. But now you're with men, and it's a different ball game. The rules were a little stricter. Now you're still in prison, but now you still gotta abide by not only the Cook County police officer rules. Now you gotta abide by the rules of the guys that are governing the prison. Um, well, from the time they drive you from the police station, they put you in this bus. They drive you to 26 and Cal, where they go. Actually, they end up stopping at different police stations, picking guys up and stuff as while you're there. And then you drive to 26 and Cal. Once you get into 26 and Cal, they take you down to processing, where they fingerprint you. You got to see a doctor, uh, dentist. They do like a whole, um, basically, health checkup on you. Oh no, this is something different. Uh, you know, they have the worst thing is basically most like a checkup, like when you go to the doctor, the blood pressure and stuff like that. But they had this thing for the men uh, called where you had to go see the doctor. The dick doctor, what it was, he would have you hold your penis and he was insert right in your head, like this needle. It was supposedly be to check for if you had any STDs. So they will stick this. It looked like a paper clip, but unroll. When you unroll a paper clip and it's long like that, and the doctor would just tell you, hold on. He would tell you, don't move, because if you move, I don't call the police officer over here. He's gonna hold you down, and it's gonna be worse. So don't even move, don't even flinch or nothing like that. And he would just insert this thing in there, twist it, and pull it out. Oh yeah, it was painful, and you'll be feeling it for about 3 or 4 days as you urinate. Yeah, they would check your teeth and stuff like that. Make sure cavities and stuff like that. And then after they would do that, do your paperwork and stuff, then they will take a whole group. They'll put you in these little holding cells, and then they will call, let's say, 20 to 30 guys at a time into the hallway. When they had you there in the hallway, they will have you stripped butt naked in front of everybody. Everybody that's there, stripped butt naked. And they would look at your feet, make you pick up your nutsack. They'll make you bend over, spread your cheeks. It was just degrading. In the juvenile, you just strip down, and just hand them your clothes, because they're gonna give you like a little uniform that you're gonna be wearing, pants, shirt, socks, stuff like that. Yeah, you weren't wearing. The only thing you were keeping that you came in with was your shoes, and they were going through them thoroughly. At that time, most of us were all stars. Wasn't no Jordans or nothing like that. They would pull the sole from the inside, rip it off and stuff like that. Make sure you didn't have nothing in there, and then just give them right back to you. 26 in California, then you'll be designated. They're gonna give you a card with what unit you were assigned to. Then they'll call the ones that are going towards that area, Division 5, Division 1, Division 9, whatever the Division 2, whatever division they were sending you to. They'll take a group of guys that were going also over there, and then they'll just start dispersing you to the unit, because you have, like, for instance, you have Division 9, you have like 9A, 9B, 9C, 9D, and so forth. So then they'll just take all of those guys that were headed that way, and they'll start dropping them off. And you walk into your unit and stuff like that, and there's guys already waiting out there, waiting in the unit. You come inside the unit, and you're gonna have a couple of guys from different sets and stuff like that to ask you, hey, where you from? What you be about? And then they'll point you to, all right, that's your people over there, or this is your people over here. Go over there and stuff like that. You get together with your people. They'll have a care package for you. They'll give you your care package, which has soap, toothpaste, toothbrush, shower shoes, different stuff. And they ask you if you hungry. They'll give you something to eat and stuff like that till you go to the store and commissary and buy stuff. And then you donate what they call is the box, and you donate stuff to the box, for the next person that's coming in to keep it going. So like that, when somebody comes in on the new, they got something. They got toothpaste and stuff like that that they're gonna need on their first day till they're able to go to commissary. Well, is basically, I hate to say it, but it was cool, because there's, coming from Humboldt Park, you're bound to bump into somebody that knows you. So, usually that was the case. You're gonna bump into somebody that you knew, whatever division or unit you end up at, and stuff. Or if not, if they weren't in your unit, they were across the other unit and stuff like that. And you'll be able to holler at them and stuff like that. And they'll tell you, hey man, holler at this dude or holler at that dude and stuff like that. And then they'll be like, hey man, that's one of the guys. And it was pretty. It was smooth. It became not so cool for me, honestly. Um, on this last time that I was incarcerated. Okay, it became not so cool for me in 2013. you know, like in the beginning, I was, like I said, I was always going into prison, and it's that it was comfortable to me. Uh, it was so comfortable that, you know, I used to tell my mom, because I used to look at it when I would get locked up as a cool off moment from the streets for the police to forget about me. Because at times they used to just pick me up on some bullshit. Uh, and my mom was always saying that it was me, 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 me all the time. And she didn't start believing me till one time she got sick. And when she got sick, she asked me, please stay home. Let me rest. Let me rest there. I don't have to worry. So I stood home with her. But she wanted to drink some coffee, and she asked me, can you go to the store for me and buy me a libra de café? So I said, yeah, mom. So she gave me the money. I walk out. We used to live on Washington and Potomac. And I walk out, they're called the Brickadites. I walk out the house. We lived 3 houses off the alley. So as soon as I walk out, my baby sister was in front of the house. She asked me where I was going. So I can go buy mom some coffee. I'll be right back. I hit the alley. As I hit the alley, the narcos come out. So I'm not, I ain't been doing nothing all day. So they come and grab me and handcuff me right away because I had a tendency of running from them. So they handcuffed me right away. My little sister ran inside it to get my mom. So my mom comes out and she's asking them, why are you taking my son? What did he do? And they actually told my mom that they've been watching me for the past 2 hours selling drugs on Crystal and Washington. That's where I hung out at. And my mom told him that's impossible because my son literally been home with me all day because I've been sick. I just send him to the store, and if you look in his pocket, he has the money that I just gave him to go get the coffee. And they started calling my mom a liar. So long story short, they ended up taking me to jail. So that's how bad it was at one moment. So every time I went to prison, I was cool with it because it was just like a cool off moment for me to get away from the streets and to visit the guys that I hadn't go visit. That used to, when you come home, you tell them I'm gonna come visit you, and you never do. Then you end up back in prison, and you be like, "Damn, nigga, you didn't come see me," but I'm here now. So that's how I used to look at it. But things changed for me. I ended up going to state prison in 97, 96, 97. And when I came home, I got together with my wife. My wife's name is Nancy. We were seeing each other before I ended up going to state prison on and off. But when I went to state prison, she was always writing to me. I was writing to her. She would come visit me. So when I came home in 1997, I moved. Actually, I came home and moved in with her. And in 1999, we got married. We made a life with each other, which we still uh, are living together. We're still married happily. And we got married. I continued with my bad behavior. I was still selling drugs and stuff, which she was always telling me, leave that. I don't care about no house, no cars, and nothing like that. But I was like, that's not me. I'm not gonna get a job, and this is how we're gonna live. This is how you met me, and that was the only downfall that we had. Um, so we had 2 kids together. My son, Boo Boo, who's 25 now, he has autism, and my daughter, who's 23, Nalesi. But I had 2 kids from um, 2 other baby mamas, and she had 2 boys, and which I ended up adopting as my own, and they consider me dad. So we got married, made a life with each other and stuff like that. And in 2013, the feds came knocking at my door and took me to prison. And all I could think about was leaving my family behind. Because I'm not going to say that I didn't have a family before, but this is something that I could actually call my family, my wife and my kids. This is something that, we were always together. Yes, I sold drugs and stuff, but I wasn't out here living the vida loca, hanging out in bars and nothing like that. Um, I was doing what I was doing, but I spent a lot of family time. Whatever we did together as a family. We went, We're going to Wisconsin all the time, Puerto Rico, Florida. We did it as a family. We were always traveling as a family. I always used to say, all my friends knew that as after a certain hour, because I would sell drugs, but I would sell drugs in between from the time I would drop off my son at school to the time he came home. Once he came home, once I would pick him up from school because I would drop him off and pick him up. So once I would pick him up, I would just stay home or, go do little stuff, play my numbers and stuff like that. So when the feds came and got me this time, it just hit me hard because all I was thinking about was my family, something that I finally built, um, and I love dearly to my heart. There was nothing, and there is nothing that I don't love more than my family. Of course, God, because I know that He's given me this second opportunity. Uh, so it's going to prison and leaving them behind. Uh, it was like the worst thing ever. That's all I've ever thought that I was never gonna lose because I my intentions was never to lose. So yeah, my son, he was always with me. That was my life. Because actually, when he was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3, and I'll never forget because after 3 they phase him out. It's this big process. My son was premature, 2 pounds 2 ounces. That's a whole nother story. Uh, he's here by the grace of God. When my son was born, they only gave him 50-50 chance. But that's another story. I had a good family life when I was in Puerto Rico because of my grandparents um, and my mom. I can't, my mom. I always say my mom was a good mom. She is a good mom. Um, but you know, growing up, just she was raising 4 kids on her own, and my mom was always working and going to school because she wanted to make a better life for us. So while we were in Puerto Rico, when she wasn't there, we had the time with my grandparents. My grandparents make sure that, we stayed occupied, like I said, with the hogs, the cattle, whatever the case was may be. So uh, it was good. But when my parents were together uh, before they separated, there was a lot of domestic violence at home. With my mom and my dad. My dad was a gigolo at the time. All these women and stuff like that out drinking. I can't say that I really seen my dad drunk, but I know that he drank. And one thing I do know for sure is he, he messed around a lot with different women. Yeah, what wasn't so great was that part that my mom was barely there, and she struggled, um, but she had the backup of my grandparents, and actually that's how we ended up back here because my mom had a good job. She was working with for Bose had a company. The Bose speakers had a company out in Puerto Rico, and my mom was working for them. But then when they shut down the company and stuff like that, actually that's how we ended up back here in Chicago because things were getting harder, and she didn't want to depend on my grandparents. That was the best part of my growing up was with my grandparents. Although I still say that because I was still like doing like little stuff like you know uh, at school over there, you know, smoking weed and stuff like that. So I don't know if it's that um, lifestyle will call me because another thing in Puerto Rico is that I spent actually that's where my grandmother and my aunt that's where I was introduced to God. So me being in church and stuff like that now is nothing new. It's just I consider myself the prodigal son that the Bible talks so much. Just like I know many others like that, because my grand my grandmother passed, but my aunt is still alive, and my aunt is still Pentecostal, and she's the Pentecostal that don't wear pants still. She doesn't wear makeup, still in skirts and stuff. So I was in church basically 7 days a week for 4 or 5 hours a day. Um, so I knew about God before I came here to Chicago. So you know, and my grandmother and my aunt, you were always saying, you got a calling on your life, you got a calling on your life. But when you're young, you honestly, I wasn't trying to hear that stuff. I'm like, yeah, 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 whatever. Like I said, I never left the game. So, as time evolved, I got more and more and more involved in different stuff. And I was actually I was sending heroin to another state, and actually they were being watched. They weren't even they weren't even watching me. Then the person that I was dealing with, well, the person that used to work for me, ended up getting caught. They were waiting on him because they had the phones tapped and stuff like that. So they were waiting on it to get there. So they knew that it was coming from over here from Chicago. They really didn't have no name. They had my voice recorded on a few conversations with the person that I was distributing to. Um, but that's about it. So then, when the person that used to work for me got caught over there, that's how they ended up finding my name and stuff like that. So actually, they didn't come get me till a year later. So I want to say they everything happened like in 2012, let's say, and then a year later, they probably about exact a year later they came and scooped me. A little bit over 7 years. They I was sentenced to 10 years, and I served a little bit over 7 years. That was the worst because federal prison is totally different from state prison. Totally different. Uh, they send you anywhere. You're not. They're not keeping you here in Illinois because you're from Illinois. Which actually, that's where I first started after I got sentenced. They sent me to a medium max joint here in Pekin, Illinois, and that's totally different. You get there, and the they drive you into these big old fences and stuff like that. They take you and whoever else is on a bunch of people out the bus. They take you, basically, you go through the physical, doctor at the feds. Um, you go through the physical, and then you go through interviews and stuff like that because federal prison is totally different from state prison. Here, especially like the medium joints, the medium max or max joints for the federal prison. Um, you got guys that they have what they call cars. So in federal prison, like everybody that's from Chicago is together. Everybody's that's from St. Louis, they're together. Everybody who's from Tennessee, they're together. So those are basically the gangs. All the Mexicans, they're called paisas, they're together. Um, all the white guys, they're a different clique. So that's our federal prison. But um, Illinois, Chicago, their clique is a little bit different. Out of all the cliques, while I was in federal prison, Chicago has the strictest clique. And what I mean by that is that when you go to federal prison and you're from Chicago, you got the guys from Chicago that come and approach you. And like I said, this I'm speaking on behalf like medium joints on up, and they approach you. So I was approached. Actually, when I went the way that, in Pekin it worked, because that's another thing. The police, internal affairs, in federal prison, they ask you themselves, especially in those joints, medium on up, and they tell you themselves, listen, did you tell on anybody? And you answer them. Yeah, I didn't tell on nobody. So I was like, no. The guy was like, are you sure? I said, yeah, I'm sure. He said, listen, I'm gonna release you into population. I'd rather put you in the hole now and transfer you somewhere later, or rather than carry your body out of here later. And I'm like, at first I didn't understand what he was talking about, but I wasn't worried about it. So from there they would take you to clothing. I went to clothing. Uh, I'll never forget. I went to the window. The guy looked at me. They look at your number because if you have your last three digits on your federal number, it tells exactly where you from. Like 069, that's Puerto Rico. 424, that's Chicago. So when the guy say 424, of course, you being from Chicago, they're pretty much knowing that you're involved in some kind of gang. So the guy asked me, you a Land King? I was like, no, ain't no Land King. He was like, oh, you folks? I was like, yeah. Then he was like, well, turn around. You see them guys right there? He gave the guys a signal, and it was guys from here, from Chicago. Actually, most of them end up being like from Humboldt Park. I had did time with two of them oh man, with Jay and guy's name. But anyway, uh, they weren't there. Oh, Spooky was the other guy. They weren't there, but the other guys were there, and one of them ended up being from the neighborhood named Monkey. So he was like, when you get out of here, they're gonna approach you. Sure enough, I came out. They asked me who I am, where I'm from, and stuff like that. And they asked me, so basically the same thing. The officer asked me, like, hey, did you tell on anybody? I was like, oh, dude, man, I ain't tell on nobody, man. Now I got a little attitude because now they ain't the police no more. Now it's these guys. I'm like, I ain't told on nobody, dude. Uh, they were like, well, the guy gave me a little piece of paper. He was like, and then that piece of paper, it tells you everything you're going to need because you're going to need your paperwork, what they call your paperwork, your plea agreement, your sentencing statements, and some other stuff. Basically, they want to investigate if you told on anybody. Well, what ended up happening was when they transferred me from Pekin. From Pekin, they sent me all the way to Mississippi, Yazoo, Mississippi. I was down there for about a year, but it was a long ride for my wife. And that year, I think I seen my wife twice, my wife and kids twice, because the ride was so long. The first time they came by train, and it was like a 14-hour ride. The second time they came in car, and it was like a 17-hour ride. So I started getting, a guy invited me to church, so I went to church and stuff like that. And I kind of like, because I like the worship part of church. The singing and stuff like that, and it kind of bring memories of Puerto Rico. And so I started attending the church. Church was on Saturdays. So I started attending the church. Then I started getting into the Word. I told my mom and stuff that I was going to church and stuff like that. So my mom sent me a Bible. So I started reading the Bible and stuff like that. I started praying every night, and asking God, man, God, please get me close to home. Get me close to home. You get me close to home, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that for you. Just get me close to home. And God answered my prayer. But when I was praying, like I said, I was saying, God, uh, you get me close to home. I'm gonna start a men's group. Uh, I'm gonna do. I forgot what else I said. I was gonna do, but I said I'm gonna do all. I was saying all kind of stuff. Um, and God answered my prayer. I ain't gonna lie, He answered my prayer. He got me to this place called Thompson. It was like a camp. It's the lowest of the lowest, and as far as security, is open. You come in and out as you want. Uh, so I got down there. It was actually they had just opened it up. So there was really nothing because when I got down there, the first thing I asked, "Hey man, what's up with church?" "Oh man, we ain't got church here and stuff like that." They didn't even have the daily bread, which that was part of my routine in prison, was reading the daily bread and getting into the Bible every morning with my coffee. So actually, they didn't start bringing the daily bread till I started requesting it. So they finally bring it. But in the meantime, now I'm close to home again. You got a bunch of guys from Chicago, got two guys that know me from the hood. So we're like, man, come on, man. We could get this in, we could get that in, man. And I know you could get it. And I was like, no, 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 I ain't gonna do that. That's not what I came down here for, because I remember what I was praying for and what I had told God. So it came to the moment that I was just bored and stuff like that. And I started doing all the opposite stuff of what I had told God. I didn't last 30 days in that prison. Um, I started bringing in cell phones, tobacco, alcohol, and they caught me with a cell phone. So they put me in the hole. Uh, while I was in the hole, I'm over here like, man, just crying out to God, man, why you keep doing this to me? Why you keep doing this to me, man? You're always doing this to me. And then I seen my Bible there. So I picked up the Bible and it took me to the book of Ecclesiastics. I believe it was chapter 5, and I can't remember exactly what chapter. So as I'm reading it, it says, um, don't tell me stuff. It's better for you to keep your mouth shut than tell me stuff and paying for it later. And then that's when it hit me. I was like, you are listening to me, because you just answer me, why is it that I keep running into the wall? And you just showed me. Uh, Basically, I should have never made all these promises. And that's why I'm sitting here, because I made you all these promises and I went totally against what I have promised to do for your kingdom. Uh, and then that's when I came to the realization that God's been listening to me all this time. He never left me. So he was always with me at all times. He never left me. He never failed me. I have failed him because of the promises that I made him. So then from after sitting in the hole for about a month and a half, 2 months, they transferred me to another prison in Ohio, in Elkton, Ohio. There I got together with a group of Hispanics, Spanish. There were my mentor there was Acevedo. He was Dominican, and you got Chapin from Guatemala. I forgot the other guy's name, Honduras. I ended up started getting involved in the church there, um, and I got so deep. Believe it or not, and I'm not a singer, but I ended up in the choir. I was singing in the choir with the Spanish group, and then Acevedo, which was the leader of the Spanish group. He started as time evolved. He was having me bring devotionals to the church and giving my testimony, stuff like that. So I started getting more and more involved in there. And then I ended up, I was speaking to my wife one time because I had this urge to get baptized. Uh, but I was telling my wife that I wanted to get baptized when I came home because I wanted my mom to be there and her and my kids and stuff like that. And my wife told me, no, if you have the urge to get baptized now, do it now. Don't wait till you get home. So I ended up getting baptized in prison, and it was just my wife asked me, "How did you feel when you came out?" And I just felt like this weight lifted off my shoulders. I just felt light. I'll never forget that. And but let me tell you something, because it was kind of hard, because we were right here. I was here in Ohio, and I had guys that knew me. I already had been in prison like what 5 years or so, uh, and I had guys that knew me from other prisons how I was. So there was issues in the prisons, but I was involved. They knew. Don't bother me at this time because I'm going to church. That was it. That was final. Leave me alone. When I'm in the Word, just leave me alone. Oh no, there was no way I was coming back. I was um what what really did it for me and keeps me grounded. First of all, is God Almighty. Um, then my kids, and while I was in prison, I lost something that was very precious, which was my grandmother. Never forget, I called. I had to. I would call my wife daily, and I called my wife, and my wife told me, "Yeah, you need to call by your grandmother." When she told me that, I kind of already knew my grandmother was already having health issues. But my grandmother was the type that be like, I would call her. I'll call my grandmother once a month, twice a month, and I would call her, and she'd be like, "Ay, nene, tengo la alta presión, me duele la pierna." Every time I called, she had 1,000 excuses that she was dying, and then I'd be like, "Pero qué tú estás haciendo, abuela?" "Oh, estoy haciendo pasteles." "But I thought you said your arm is falling off." But that's how she was. So she was already getting kind of sick. So when I called, she was already basically in hospice. My aunt told me there was nothing. They told her in the hospital there was nothing more that they could do and stuff like that. So I barely even got to understand her. My last words to my grandmother was, "Abuela, yo te prometo que yo no voy a venir para la cárcel más nada. No quiero que te preocupes de mí más nada. Y te amo mucho." So, like I said, first of all, God keeps me grounded. My kids definitely keep me grounded. And the promise I made to my grandmother. Now, I'm not sitting here giving this testimony and stuff just because I want to. I'm doing it because even if it touches one person, is good. I learned that Acevedo used to tell me that. Your testimony, you share your testimony with 100 people and one of them gets saved. You did good. So, because it's not easy, man. Believe me, this is not easy. After living a life of crime all my life and things financially being so easy, um, going through changing my lifestyle out here now is not easy. I've had moments where I have funny because not too long ago I had a moment and I'm asking myself, why am I breaking my back? Why am I doing this when all I gotta do is pick up the phone and make a couple of phone calls and I'll be on again and money will start flowing in again. But the day that happened was a situation I had at work. Sorry, situation I had at work, and I was just mad. I was pissed. And next thing you know, my daughter calls me. After my daughter calls me, my brother Danny calls me from church, and then JC calls me, and I've told myself, if this isn't God, I don't know who it is. But it it just shows me that God loves me, and He just keeping me, and He's just keeping me on the right track, and He's showing me that He's still here for me. And I told Danny, my brother Danny from Mana, Danny Cruz, that I love, and my brother JC, and my wife. I shared this with my wife, because it's not easy. is not easy. So, um, I try to stay as grounded as I can, and I remember every time a thought comes to my mind, I just think about my kids, promise to my grandmother, and the promise that God has made to me. So, I know it's gonna be a battle, but I know I'm gonna get there soon enough. I came out with goals, and I pray to God that one thing I know is that I know that my plans are not gonna come from one day to the next. But I know that if I remain faithful to God, and to my family, I know they're gonna come true. I know they are, and I think that this is my calling to give my testimony to help others. I go to Manna for Life, and I share my testimony. I'm always sharing with different people I just meet and stuff, and they'll start talking to me, and I just tell them because they think, oh, I'm there at Manna and that I'm good. I'm in church and I'm good. No, and I tell them what I've been through and what I'm doing now in my life, and then they look at me different, because people think that just because you're in church, you got it made, but it's not like that because the enemy is gonna come. So, and that's another thing that I always say. You got to know your weaknesses. I always say this. I tell everybody. I said I know my weakness. I know my weakness. My weakness is money, and I know that the enemy is gonna come, and he's gonna come, and he's gonna try to attack me different ways. So I always say, if you know what your weaknesses are, it makes it a little easier uh, for you to tell Satan, "Get behind me." He knows your weakness better than you. But if you know him, it makes it a little easier. And you got to stay grounded in the word. I, I was having problems in the beginning when I came home and stuff like that. And what it was is that while I was in prison, I had a routine. Because in prison, you ain't doing nothing but working out. But I had a routine: the daily bread, the Bible, prayer, uh, meditation. And I had that routine on a daily basis from Monday to Sunday. That was my routine. And when you get out here and things are moving so fast and you're trying to make it, you get away from all of that. And I was able to realize it because things were getting harder and harder and harder. And what it was like I wasn't praying, I wasn't reading the word, I wasn't doing none of that stuff. And when I realized that, I was like, I started to get back into it. Things started getting better. I got involved in Manna for Life. I started to read the word again. I started to pray again. Um, and like I said, the enemy knows you. So I went to school, got my CDL and stuff like that. As soon as I got my CDL, first job that came to me was UPS as a seasonal driver. And I took it because I was like, UPS? I said, boy, this can't get no better. I thank God, thank you for this job and stuff like that. But then I wasn't serving, I wasn't reading the word or none of that stuff. And I was kind of upset because it was taking me from all that. And I was working 10, 12 hours a day. And one of the days that I took a day off, right before Thanksgiving, I took a day off, and I'll never forget because I called Pastor Ephraim to thank him, or to give him the testimony after, because then Danny Cruz and JC, John over at Manna, Jamal, can't forget Jamal, that's a great brother, I love him. Um, they had Pastor Ephraim because I wasn't serving at Manna no more, and I didn't have time for nothing else. So they had Pastor Ephraim pray for me that I was able to get, because Manna is on Saturdays, to pray for me for God to open up a door for me to get a Monday through Friday job. So Pastor Ephraim prayed, and we prayed, and we put it up, gave it up all to God, and the seasonal job thing was over, was about to be over at UPS, and I started putting my resume through Indeed, and I started filling out applications, and the company that I work for now, actually, I never even put an application. Look, this is how big God is. I didn't even put an application to these people. They contacted me, and they wanted to interview me and this and that, and I went for the interview, more money, and the best thing, guess what? Monday through Friday. So glory to God. So as soon as I got the job, one of the first things I did was call my wife. Second thing I did was call Pastor Ephraim, just to let him know that because of his prayer and because of being faithful to God and just leaving it all up to him, I got a Monday through Friday job, and I was be able to serve at mine on Saturday. So glory to God. So if you stay faithful in what you're doing for the kingdom of God, He's going to answer your prayers. It might not be as fast as you want them to answer, because like I said, I've been home now going on 4 years. I want to start my own business, and it hasn't happened yet, but things have been coming along, progressing as time goes by. So I know it's gonna come to flourish, and I just got to keep my faith in God, keep doing the work that I'm doing for His kingdom. Because not only do I serve at Manna Saturdays, but I have become an usher alongside my wife, who's been ushering now for, I don't know, my wife's been serving Jesus 2007. Thank you, my brother. I'm definitely gonna work. Just like JC gave me this one, now I got two of them. My name is Jose Antonio Rivera, and I am forgiven.